Today we're talking about one of the world's most powerful laptops. It's about jaw-dropping benchmark results, it's about top gaming performance, and it's about another laptop that makes you feel awkward for still having both kidneys. So it's about the ROG Strix Scar 17 SE. So what makes a product be considered the most somehow? Well, it's often a pretty subjective opinion. I mean, we can say a particular laptop is the best looking, or the most efficient, or the most whatever. But there is one thing we can measure plain and simple: performance. And in the case of this Strix Scar 17 SE, it all boils down to the stellar hardware inside it. An Intel Core i9 12950HX CPU, 32GB of DDR5 memory, 4TB of SSDs, and an RTX 3080 Ti video card. For those who are really interested in toys this expensive, the Strix Scar 17 SE may be the top dog from looks to specs and from build quality to the extra feature it offers. Let's dive in. Being part of the ROG lineup, you're not wrong to expect from this laptop some craziness. And even if it doesn't look like it, this laptop has a special design. Most people won't see it at first glance, especially since you need some UV light for that. But once you open the box and use the flashlight included, you'll reveal the design drawn in invisible ink directly on the chassis. It contains some coordinates and a coded message, but I didn't have that much time to do what Robert Langdon did in his search for the Da Vinci Code. And since we're talking about the hidden model on the laptop's lid, we might as well continue the discussion about its appearance, especially since it comes with some interesting other features. One thing somewhat recently introduced is the inscribed cover above the left hinge. The laptop comes with 3 such covers, one already mounted and 2 others in the box. They are extremely easy to install and uninstall, so you can properly customize a laptop that costs you a kidney. And if you have a 3D printer around, you can create your own covers using the template provided by Asus. Turning the laptop upside down, we discovered 2 things on the bottom. The first is the huge ventilation area that provides plenty of cutouts for the cooling system to work its magic. The rubber sole with ROG lettering is also part of the setup, and its purpose is to... I don't really know. The second interesting thing on the bottom of the laptop is the RGB lid stripe that gives off a halo of light in front of the laptop when it's on. The bottom lighting blends seamlessly into the colored keys on the keyboard, and they can be controlled together via the Armoury Crate software. In terms of build quality, you get pretty much what you'd expect from a $4,000 laptop. A damn solid chassis made of thick plastics and high quality materials. I have nothing to complain about the design, so let's lift the lid and see what it's all about. The lid and monitor setup is supported by 2 thick and visible hinges. These separate the screen from the rest of the chassis, so a space is created between these 2 elements, meaning the heat exhausted by the cooling system doesn't get right into the lower display area, as we often see in other gaming laptops. But there are some less cool things that I can't get used to, and among them is Asus' inexplicable obsession with transparent plastics. The plastic is straight out of a toy box, so anything but designed for premium ROG products that have always inspired power and elegance. Besides that, there aren't many new look things. The keyboard is the same as the last generations of Strix Scar, same goes for the touchpads, so I won't waste any time outlining them. They've been used for so long for a reason, and if they weren't good, or at least decent, given Asus resources, I'm sure an alternative would have been quickly found. The connectivity present on the sides of the laptop is rich and is split about 50-50 between the back and the left edge. On the left you have an audio jack and 2 USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type-A ports, and on the back you have the power port along with an RJ45 with 2.5 gig internet support, an HDMI 2.1 with 4K high refresh rate support, a USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type-C with charging support and display port, and to complete the menu we also have Thunderbolt 4 connection. I know you're all waiting to see how powerful this laptop is, but I'm telling you, the display also deserves some attention. This model comes with 2 screen options: Full HD at 360Hz or QHD at 240. I got the latter for testing, which comes with a 3 milliseconds response time, Dolby Vision support and adaptive sync technology. That makes it one of the most capable and accurate laptop screens I've seen. Not only is it capable in terms of response speed and refresh rate, but also in scenarios where colors have to stand out. To the untrained eye, it might look like an IPS panel that offers some very vivid colors, decent viewing angles, and the brightness level that's just right. No ghosting, no artifacts, and with a 17-inch diagonal it manages to show you quite a lot of detail. But here I could also make a recommendation because at such a diagonal, even at 1080p resolution, the pixel density is high enough so any image rendered at native resolution looks great. For a performance boost, I might recommend going for the Full HD panel over the 1440p one, so you'll enjoy more frames per second for a very small trade-off in quality. And the 360Hz refresh rate will serve as a great advantage for competitive games. Well, I don't know if the Full HD panel is as good as this one in terms of colors and sharpness, but let's assume that such a pricey laptop doesn't allow the manufacturer to include a crappy screen. Audio-wise, the Strix Scar 17SE manages to impress just as much. The audio system uses two tweeters and two woofers facing downwards, so you get the feeling that the sound is blasting out from the screen. And if the display supports Dolby Vision, then the speakers are also in a league of their own, bringing Dolby Atmos high-res audio support and clever noise cancellation technology. For movies and games, these speakers are pretty much all you need. And now that we know how it looks, how solid it is, and how it sounds, it's time to see how much power this laptop hides under its hood. But before we do that, I want to talk a bit about the hardware configuration, because that alone would be worth a video on its own. Let's start with the CPU, which is a Core i9-12950HX, meaning the most powerful CPU Intel has in its bag for the laptop market. It uses the same Alder Lake architecture we saw in the 12900HK, only difference being it offers a slightly different core configuration. In this case, we have 8 performance cores and 8 efficiency cores for a total of 16 cores and 24 threads. And if the 3.6 GHz frequency on the efficient cores seems generous, wait until you see the boost when the CPU is clocked at 5 GHz. Throw in 30 MB of cache and you've got a laptop CPU I barely resist comparing to a flagship desktop. But there's a small trick here, as the 55-watt TDP is only a small part of the story. In truth, this Core i9 is eating around 157 watts. The performance is on par though, and the comparison with the 12900HK seems a bit lopsided. In single-core tests such as Cinebench R20 and POV Ray, the performance boost isn't that great. But once you put all those 24 threads to work, you end up with a CPU that outmatches what you thought was the most powerful laptop processor on the market by a wide margin. In Cinebench R20 we have 6,000 and something points scored by the 12900HK against nearly 9,000 points scored by the 12950HX. POV Ray shows another big difference as well, with a total of nearly 8,000 points versus under 6,000. In V-Ray we have perhaps the biggest imbalance, with an improvement of about 50%, 11,000 points versus over 16,000. In Blender we see the same situation, so we can already draw a conclusion when talking about raw CPU performance. And once the Superfast DDR5 memory and the RTX 3080 Ti graphic card come into play, the experience improves even more. This was seen in 3D Mark and Superposition, where the ROG Strix Scar 17SE scored very well. We got over 13,500 points in TimeSpy, over 16,000 in Firestrike Extreme, and 11,300 in Superposition 4K optimized. Okay, enough fooling around, it's time to game seriously. Apex Legends ran at ultra settings with 1440p resolution and got an average of 174 frames per second. The same 1440p resolution ran a benchmark map and averaged some 300 FPS. And I left Cyberpunk 2077 for the end, because here I tested 3 different scenarios. First, I saw an average of 96 frames per second at Full HD with the Ultra preset. Then I cranked the resolution up at 1440p and the frames dropped to 60. But in this resolution, with ray tracing in Ultra and DLSS unbalanced, I got the best gaming experience. And that means the laptop ran very stable in extremely demanding scenarios. What do you think? Nice results, right? If I told you it could do even better than that, would you believe me? And no, there's no other laptop more powerful than this one in the Asus lineup. Maybe not even in other manufacturers' offerings, but like many other high-end laptops I've tested, this one suffers from thermal throttling. In tests we reached 95 degrees Celsius almost instantly, and the maximum temperature recorded was 97. In gaming, the situation got a bit better, with temperatures as low as 80 degrees in demanding titles like Cyberpunk 2077 and slightly lower in FIFA or games that squeeze more out of the GPU. The idle temperature was much more decent at around 38-40 degrees. At the same time, the GPU was more well behaved. During tests, it didn't exceed 85 degrees. However, it dropped to 60 during gaming. The engineers who designed the cooling process of the Scar did a fantastic job. It uses a vapor chamber and has 4 vents. Comes with special fans for the CPU and GPU, and the link between the cooling system and the components is made through a liquid metal thermal compound. And with all that engineering, it's still not enough for the Intel CPU fever and hunger for power. Anyway, heads down to Asus for having tried their best, and for a somewhat compact laptop, this is easily the best solution I've ever seen. Unfortunately, modern laptop CPUs come with huge power consumption figures in order to reach the performance level manufacturers dream of. These downsides are directly affecting the consumers, meaning you get a laptop that gets hot easily, eats more power, and is subjected to constant heat stress. Battery life is another downside, but poor autonomy seems to plague every gaming laptop. And boy, what a freaking charger this laptop has. It's just a wee little 330 watts, and that's justified if you want to feed such a powerful CPU and the GPU like the RTX 3080 Ti. However, if you plan on going somewhere without a need for gaming, you might as well use instead the smaller 100-watt Type-C charger. This should be just enough for office, multimedia, and other lighter tasks. And here we are, having broken down to bits and details a really powerful laptop that managed to impress me with its performance and cooling system. Perhaps the design is not that groundbreaking, nor does it float my boat, but I'm damn sure many people will love it anyway. This makes the ROG Strix Scar 17 SE one of the top laptops on the market. With that being said, I want you to write down in the comment section your thoughts about this laptop. How do you find the design of the Strix Scar 17 SE? Like, am I crazy, or this transparent plastic is really outdated? What about the configuration and performance? If you found this video entertaining or even useful, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you guys, much appreciated.